Thomas Mair, the man found guilty of murdering the Labour MP Joe Cox, will spend the rest of his life in prison. The judge said the killing, which happened in the last week of the EU referendum campaign in June, had been carried out to advance a political cause of violent white supremacism. Mrs Cox's husband, Brendan, said the family did not seek retribution and felt nothing but pity for Mair. He described the murder as a political act, an act of terrorism. Our correspondent, Daniela Ralph, has this report.
They've had to endure the pain of the trial, the anguish of distressing evidence, the reminder of what they've lost. But this grieving family still refuse to be drawn into hate.
We try now not to focus on how unlucky we were to have her taken from us, but how lucky we were to have her in our lives for so long.
As a family, we will respond with strength, love, positivity and enthusiasm. Strength and love for each other, and positivity and enthusiasm for the principles Joe believed in.
Jo Cox was the mother of 2 young children. She was also a passionate, hard-working MP. Killed a week before the EU referendum, she'd been a strong Remain campaigner. She represented everything Thomas Mair appeared to despise. He was driven to kill her by hatred and extreme political views. CCTV showed Mair in the hours before the murder, heading into Birstall town centre, waiting for his victim. When she arrived at the local library, he stabbed her and shot her. He shouted "Britain first," and "This is for Britain," as he killed her.
He got his gun out of his bag. I could see Jo on the floor. I think she was dead then, actually, to be honest. I think she was dead. Because it stood over her from point blank range, fired straight in the head. You could see by the angle of the gun, it was straight at the head. Then he recocked his gun, pointed at the midriff, and shot her again.
As Jo Cox lay dying, Thomas Mair calmly left the scene. One eyewitness followed him and called the police.
He's walking up where, love?
Brown Hill Road. If they get a police car at Brown Hill Road, which is off Brookroyd Lane, you get a police car at the top of there and one at the bottom, you're captured.
He was quickly arrested, rugby tackled to the ground by 2 unarmed officers.
But the British public want to know why you've done it.
In all of his police interviews, he said nothing.
Jo Cox's family want to know why she's dead.
No explanation, no remorse. This was a man who'd had a fascination with extreme right-wing views for decades. As far back as 1984, Mair was buying neo-Nazi publications. He had letters published in a racist South African magazine. In one he wrote, "The white race will prevail, both in Britain and South Africa, but I fear that it's going to be a very long and very bloody struggle." At his home, his bookcase was filled with far-right literature. On top of it, a Nazi eagle. In drawers, books about the SS. Thomas Mair showed no reaction on hearing the guilty verdicts. He will now almost certainly spend the rest of his life in prison. Jo Cox's husband described what Mair did as an act of terrorism. Jo Cox was killed because of what she stood for. Her politics led to her death, at the hands of one of her own constituents. Daniela Ralph, BBC News, the Old Bailey.
Well, as we've heard, Jo Cox's husband, Brendan, said he felt nothing but pity for the man who murdered his wife. He described her as an amazing woman who'd been loved and respected and who fought and died for her values and her beliefs. Our special correspondent, Ed Thomas, has this report.
Jo Cox, a life defined by a will to do good. And more than just MP for Batley and Spen. To those who loved her most, a mother and a wife.
What I'm trying to do is to channel my energy and my thoughts into both the kids and making sure that they're okay, and then making sure that something good comes out of something that is horrific, and making sure that I do all that I can to make sure that there is a legacy for Jo that she'd be proud of, and that the issues that she cared about we take forward, and that the kids are as protected and as excited about life as they were before.
I'm proud that I was made in Yorkshire.
And what thoughts for the man who so cruelly took Jo Cox's life?
I have some pity that his life was so devoid of love and so consumed with hatred that he thought this was a okay thing to do. But I have no interest in how he feels or how he thinks. He said, I think at the time, that he did what he did for Britain, and I think that Britain would be ashamed of him. And I think Britain is very proud of Jo, and I'd like everybody to know that.
And it said to all the people that it went.
And now, 2 children who are constantly reminded of the beliefs that shaped their mother's life.
I will tell them that she was an amazing woman, who was very widely loved and respected, that she fought for her values and her beliefs and that she died for them.
That was Brendan Cox there, ending that report by our special correspondent, Ed Thomas.